Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys watch random movies and talk about them. And this is one of our mini episodes, sometimes maxi episodes. And with me, as always, is the stupendous, the inconceivable, the Dr. Fraser Crane to my Dr. Niles Crane, Kyle Mulford. How you doing, Kyle? And I'm Noah Saturn.
I'm doing inconceivable. I'm doing good. How
It
about
doesn't.
yourself?
I don't think it means what you think it means. I'm doing well.
What are we doing here? Watch a few movies?
Of our mini episodes, as I said before, sometimes maxi episodes called What You Watchin'. So in this case, I'll go first since I actually watched more than a few films this time.
Well, hey,
So
hey Noah,
yes,
what you watching?
why, thank you for asking. First, I watched a Japanese film from the 1980s called Sweet Home. So
Alabama.
I wish, no, Sweet Home in Alabama in Japan. No, it was just Sweet Home. And it was a horror film about a TV crew who goes into this mansion that's been abandoned for 30 years. It was owned by a famous artist. And then they think he might still have like some missing artwork or some artwork that no one has ever seen on the walls of this house. So they go in to try and investigate, and whoops, it's haunted.
Oh, so it's Haunted Mansion.
Yes, it is a haunted mansion, but
The
not the
pictures
haunted
move.
mansion. So the thing to know about this film is that, as far as I can tell, it's never had like a full release outside of Japan. So the way I watched it was just on YouTube with subtitles and one of those free uploads.
Okay.
Yeah, so, be that as it may, solid film, solid cast, pretty good gore effects. I was surprised they were in there, but it was good. And then really surprisingly dark story. But the reason I watched it is because it has sort of an interesting legacy pertaining to video games. Because this film was made into an NES game, only released in Japan. And then that game eventually was remade, but in the process of that remake, it's kind of be spun off and became its own thing. So, and then that remake eventually got under the name of Resident Evil.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so this is kind of a film that inspired Resident Evil in a sort of backwards sort of way. So it's interesting to kind of see where the basics are. I mean, people stuck in a mansion, and then there's monsters and stuff, and they got to find a way to get out.
Man, that first Resident Evil game on the PlayStation is still one of the scariest, most fun games I ever played.
Definitely. So I was interested in that from that point of view, but overall I think it was a pretty solid film even on its own. I definitely highly recommend that one if you can find it in legal or semi-legal ways. And then
Cool.
next, I guess I decided to stick with Japan for this one. I watched another Japanese film. This is I have this one as part of my Criterion collection, and in my personal Criterion collection, too many of them are in shrink, so I'm just going to slowly start going through those. So
Nice.
I put this one on for the first time, and this is a film called Tokyo Drifter, and what's sort of
Three
a
Fast, Three
19
Furious?
I wish. No, but it is extremely 1960s stylish film about a man who's like working for a gangster and he's trying to go straight, but then his boss gets killed, so it becomes more of a revenge movie where a bunch of bad guys are everything. What's fun about this film is that it's very colorful and it's got a great jazz soundtrack. So everyone is in really bright colors, lots of great music, extremely stylish. Once you see it, you'll never forget it. So highly recommend that one. That is Tokyo Drifter.
Nice. That sounds cool.
And next up, this will become a bit more apparent once we get there. But with our main episode that we'll be recording after this, I decided to go back and watch some movies from the 2000s. I watched The Bourne Identity. I had not seen it in
Nice.
a long time, and I forgot how much I really enjoyed these movies. And it's why I find interesting is that, at least in this one, I know so far that the CIA are the bad guys,
Right.
which you don't really see that often in films, even now and then even then, because this movie was released in 2002, so it was like right around post 9/11. So there's a lot of people being like pro-US government at the time, especially in the films and TV. But yeah, it was always with like the US government with the bad guys in this one.
Yeah. This will be interesting to, because like you alluded to, one of these may have been our primary episode that we're going to record soon. And I did not go back and rewatch the ones that came before the one we watched.
So what's always fun about this one is it definitely feels like a reaction to James Bond, specifically the reaction to like the probably the 90s James Bond. I forget what his name was. Oh, the Pierce Brosnan James Bond films.
Yeah.
Yeah, cuz they were very slick. He always had all these, tech and cool things, high spectacle. But like this one, he's just like a super spy slash assassin, but like he really only has like a certain like some money and some fake passports. Then he has to figure it out from there. And
Yeah.
of course,
Yes.
the main gimmick of these is that a man, he's like a super spy assassin guy, but with amnesia, doesn't know where he is, doesn't know who he is, trying to figure it out. But then he has all these incredible skills. So now he has to figure out while avoiding the police and avoiding the CIA.
Yeah.
And I know this
Well,
was originally
glad.
based on a book from 1980. Did you ever read it?
No, I didn't read any of these.
I did read the book. It's pretty different. A lot of the same basic structure. I'm trying to figure out who he is, kind of going around, ending up in various missions. But it's, from what I understand, like it's kind of close with the first book, but with the second and third book, it just goes completely in a completely different direction.
Yeah, that's fine.
So then I watched, well, I figure I might as well continue. And then I watched The Bourne Supremacy from
Was it
2004.
Supreme?
Well, there was a surprise at Carl Urban in this movie.
Oh, really? I don't. I
Yeah,
didn't remember that.
he's barely in it, but he is definitely plays a part. So he starts the plot where he is working for like a Russian bad guy, and they successfully steal a bunch of money and like documents from the CIA. They try and blame it on Jason Bourne, so he frames Jason, and then he goes to finds Jason, and he goes and tries to kill him. Instead, he kills his girlfriend. So that makes Jason unhappy. And of course, Jason thinks that the CIA did it because that's who he's been hiding from. So then Jason is trying to figure out what's going on and get back at the CIA until they eventually have to work together against this Russian guy.
Nice. Well, thanks for the recap on both of those.
And then this film ends with, he becomes a sort of peace with one of the people at the CIA because they find out, thanks to Jason, that like one of their main division bosses is dirty. It was actually the reason why they lost this Russian money to begin with.
Bad CIA.
Yep, so the CIA is still the bad guys. And this film ends with where he actually does find out his name. His real name is David Webb. And then throughout this one and the previous film, they've talked about how they get these really bad headaches sometimes and they start having like flashbacks of his former life that he doesn't fully remember. So when he's finally
Okay.
starting to figure it out, you find out at the end of the film, he's going specifically to Russia, not only against the agent, but also to apologize to someone whose parents he killed.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then I watched a movie from 2006 with new music from the amazing Jimmy Buffett, the 2006 classic Hoot.
What?
Hoot was based on a middle grade book by Charles Hyacin, and it's about a middle school boy who moves from Montana to like South Florida, and then he ends up finding out like there's this one kid who just kind of like lives in the swamp, kind of like a crazy wild kid, but he's trying to help prevent construction from being done because there's endangered owls that live on this tract of land that they want to build like a pancake house over.
Okay. I don't think I've even heard of this before.
Yeah, and then there's Jimmy Buffett is also in the film. He's in a couple of scenes. He plays like he plays a teacher, and he has a mentor to this kid. And then Neil Flynn, the janitor from Scrubs, plays the main kid's dad. And then Brie Larson is in this film as a soccer girl whose name is Beatrice the Bear because she'll beat up anybody.
Nice.
So it's about these three kids who try and work together to fight against this corporation that wants to build a pancake house in this small town, and they got to protect those burrowing owls. So it's very much an environmental film, and I think that's a really solid message, especially for kids. It's definitely more younger oriented, but then it has like Tim Blake Nelson as like the crotchety like landowner who's trying to get this place built. And then Luke Wilson as I guess he's the town's only cop because he's the only cop you see in the whole movie. But he does talk to his captain a couple times. And he's kind
Nice.
of the doofy cop. So, this movie is anti-police, so I support that. And then the kid who lives in the woods, imagine if you just took Matthew McConaughey and squished him into a middle schooler, but he was still living in the woods by himself, bleach blonde hair, never wore shoes, super
Okay.
tan. So you've got Baby's First McConaughey, Brie Larson, and then this other kid played by Logan Lerman, who I think sounds familiar, but I don't remember exactly what I've seen him in. So this is definitely apparently the book was a big hit, but hey, if you really like Jimmy Buffett, he made songs just for this movie for you
Great.
parrot heads out there, and that was Hoot.
Was it a hoot?
It was not. It was okay. So, Kyle, What have you been watching?
I've watched just a few myself. All right, so our last episode was on National Treasure, so I went ahead and watched the 2007 film National Treasure: Book of Secrets.
Ah, yes, National Treasure 2, Fire Walk with Me.
Yes. Where so it opens up and Ben Gates's ancestor is like trying to decode a riddle, and this is around the time of the Lincoln assassination, and he burns the notebook so no one else gets a hold of it because some bad guys are trying to get it. But then part of that comes out, and Ed Harris plays ancestor of someone else who was talking to him at the time, and Ben Gates's ancestor gets accused of being a part of the plot to kill Abraham Lincoln. So of course Ben Gates can't stand for his ancestor to have his name spat upon, so he kidnaps the president, and hilarity ensues.
Yep.
Yeah, so he has to go and prove where this treasure was that his great great grandpa was looking for, in order to prove that he was actually looking for a treasure. And so of course, Ben Gates, being smarter than everybody else for a couple centuries, figures out all the clues and finds the lost city of gold.
With help from Riley.
Yes, Riley is back, and Agent Sadusky is back, played by Harvey Keitel, and we add what was it, Helen Mirren? Helen Mirren, I think it was, as his mom.
Nice.
And John Voight's back, and we add Ed Harris to the cast, and so it's a fun movie. I like the first one a little bit better, but both of them are good double feature. They're a lot of fun. And then piggybacking onto that, I'm actually going to mention that I watched National Treasure: Edge of History. It's a 10 episode run of a national history show, or a national treasure show, on Disney Plus. Unfortunately, it didn't get great reviews, so it got canceled after the first season. I kind of liked the show. I kind of wanted to see more of it. It had the same kind of adventure feel to it. This one was a girl learns that her grandfather was or no, her father was a treasure hunter, and then she comes across by chance she comes across Sadusky again, played by Harvey Keitel, who makes an appearance in the first episode, and he tells her also about this treasure, and it turns out he knew her dad. And then one episode, I think it was like the fourth episode, Riley comes back, so he makes an appearance, and it's a 10 episode run on this girl racing Catherine Zeta-Jones as the bad guy to get to the treasure first. So
The treasure is Michael Douglas.
yes. Of course it is. If you like the movies, I'd recommend the show also. It was fun. And even though it got canceled after one season, it works as a standalone season. So
There should have had at least, was no Cage?
no Cage, but there was talks of him making Riley talks to him on the phone in the episode he's in.
Okay.
Or talks to his character, you don't hear the other end of the conversation.
Yep.
There was I guess he was in talks to make an appearance in the second season if they made one.
Aw.
I know.
That would have been great. But instead, but what if he just playing a different character? Or what if it's like a
Ghost Rider?
I was yes, please. Johnny Blaze, yes. No, I was hoping he'd show up as Nick Cage from The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Oh, that'd be perfect. So anyway, moving on, on Amazon Prime, I watched 2017 animated film Mary and the Witch's Flower. This is kind of like a Studio Ghibli light. It was a cute little movie. I think I would recommend this one for anyone who's got kids. It's about a girl who is living with her aunt, waiting for her mom to come in. It's the end of the summer, and her mom is going to come live there too. And she goes out into the woods. She finds a witch's broom, and it kind of has a mind of its own and takes her to this magical school in the clouds of witchcraft school in the clouds, and she meets the headmistress there, and
does she get sorted into a house based on arbitrary characteristics?
Yes.
But she gets put in the bad one?
Yes. She is a what is it, Slytherin?
Yeah.
But it turns out like the headmistress of this place is kind of bad, and Mary has to figure out how to stop this. And it's a cute movie. It's very minimalist, because like even at the school, there's one point where she goes into a classroom and there's a bunch of students in there, but like other than that scene, there is like nobody at this school other than the two main people that she meets there.
Oh, nice.
It's just like this huge school, and you never see anybody there. It's just kind of it's a very simple story, minimalist, and but like I said, it's a cute story for kids, and I would recommend it for the younger crowd. Then also on Amazon Prime, I watched the 1997 film Good Will Hunting because sometimes you just want to watch a movie that you know you love.
Yeah, with Matt Damon.
But not Matt Damon.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Speaking of Jason Bourne, I watched him when he was a math whiz. I think I've talked about this one before, so I'm not going to say much about it. This is just one of those that if I watch it, I'm going to recommend it again because I absolutely love this movie. Another wonderful
Definitely one of
performance.
my favorite Robin Williams performances.
I was going to say another wonderful performance by Robin Williams. There's a couple scenes that are really great in this. So kudos to Affleck and Damon writing this early in their career. Then on Tubi TV, I watched a 1970 Billy Wilder film, The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes.
I've always wanted to see this one.
It is on Tubi now, so it's available for you. This one's really good. I like this. It's kind of opens up with some people opening a case, and it's like the last written story of Sherlock by Watson, but it's like, do not open this story until years after my death. And it's kind of like him telling the final case of Sherlock, and just another Sherlock story, which is just kind of well put together and ends in them seeing the Loch Ness monster, and there's a mystery behind that. And you have Christopher Lee playing Sherlock's brother Mycroft, so that's always
Nice,
great.
nice.
And the guy playing Sherlock was someone I'm not real familiar with. I can't remember his name now, but he did a good job, and I really enjoyed this. If you're a fan of Sherlock, this is I like the way the main guy played him, and I would highly recommend this if you're a fan.
Yeah, what's fun about a character about Sherlock Holmes is that there's so many different performances and none of them are bad for the most part. A lot of them are really fun.
Yeah, some of them don't
And
feel like Sherlock, but are still fun. Kind of like the Robert Downey Jr. movies. I'm going, that is not Sherlock Holmes, but those are a lot of fun.
but at the same time it kind of is because he's still really smart and he's still kind of a dick about it.
Yes, yes. I do love how like that dickish attitude when it's played well as
Hmm.
Sherlock. But that's another recommend though. And then on Canopy, I watched the second volume of Time Warp, the greatest cult films of all time, horror and sci-fi. This is from 2020. This is a series of 3 films hosted by Joe Dante, Ileana Douglas, Kevin Pollak, and John Waters. And
Nice,
I can't
John
remember
Waters.
right. John Waters and his pedophile mustache. That mustache is so creepy looking on him, and he's worn it for decades.
Yeah, you just kind of have to embrace it at this point.
Right. It's kind of a signature mustache now. I don't know if I talked about the first one. I watched it before our last episode. But this is just those 4 talking about what is a cult movie, what makes a cult movie, and then they have a bunch of other people that were in some of the movies they're talking about, and just kind of bringing up a bunch of this one in this volume was a bunch of sci-fi and horror films. So it's kind of interesting just what their ideas of cult movies are. There's nothing real special to these shows other than them kind of just talking about
Hmm.
movies that people love that select few people absolutely love. So but it's interesting.
Did they talk about killer clowns from outer space?
I don't think they did, which is a shame.
Oh, how could they?
I can't remember now. I can't remember all of the films that they talked about because there was quite a few, but I don't remember that one coming up. Then on Disney Plus for family movie night, we watched the 2023 film. This is my second 2023 film, Peter Pan and Wendy, and this was
That's what
uh,
I've heard.
I like the director David Lowery, although he also did A Ghost Story, and people love that movie. I thought it was a bore. But I did like the thing is like I'm getting sick of these Disney remakes of classic cartoons. But David
Hmm.
Lowery is also the one who did the Pete's Dragon remake, and I liked his remake of that.
I heard that was the good one that nobody saw.
It was because I actually really liked that remake. So I was like, oh, okay, it's David Lowery doing this again. That's cool. And I loved Green Knight, the Green Knight. So I was like, oh, cool. He didn't put any of his kind of pizzazz into Peter Pan and Wendy. It was very dull, and it did the stupid thing. I even was watching this with my family, and I go, "I swear to God, if Peter Pan and Captain Hook were best friends growing up, I'm done with this." And then, like 5 minutes later, we learned that Peter Pan and Captain or James Hook were best friends on Neverland until James Hook left and then came back as an adult. I'm like, God damn it.
Well,
I'm
we'll
getting
always
tired of
have
that. Every
yeah,
story has to have the protagonist and antagonist. They grew up together. I'm getting so tired of that.
and they made fun of that in Austin Powers way back in the 2000s.
I know. It's I was just like, "Oh my god, you did go there, didn't you?" Because he can't just be a bad guy after Peter Pan. At the end, you have to have sympathy for him.
But there's more than one way to build sympathy into a character.
There is too. You can make an there are ways to make even if not sympathetic, but like an interesting bad guy without making him best friends with the main protagonist. I mean, look at Thanos. If you make a bad guy who's got like a he's doing the wrong things, but for what he believes is the right reason, that's a good bad guy.
Mhm.
But no, this is just another one of those. Oh, they were best friends, and then blah 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 de blah, and then we got to see him redeemed at the end of the movie. I don't know. It was okay, but like it was great to see the racism kind of like redone there a little bit. But then they made the what was the Indian girl's name in it?
Tiger Lily.
Tiger Lily. They went the exact or the extreme opposite. Instead of making it like a racist rendition of her, of course they had to make her the like supreme badass, like Indian warrior.
Nice.
But I don't know. It was just a bunch of hooey. I'd rather go watch the racist cartoon from way back in the day because if you can ignore that part of it, it's a much more fun movie.
What about the time that Hugh Jackman was Captain Hook and then they sang yeah, and they sang Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Oh, what was that? That was just called Pan, right?
Yeah.
I think I only saw part of that.
It's like that's a movie that exists.
I'd rather watch Hook. Rufio, Rufio.
That's right.
So yeah, I'm not gonna recommend Peter Pan and Wendy. Then on well actually like I put in the codes, when you buy Universal movies, you can put in codes on their website and you get points. Well, I had
Yep.
enough points to get a couple of movies, and one of them was Reality Bites from 1994. So I watched my
Oh
new
boy.
digital copy of that. This
I,
is a Ben Stiller directed movie. I like this one. It's Winona Ryder and her slacker friends, Ethan Hawke and Steve Zahn and Janine Garofalo, all graduated, and it's just mid 90s kids trying to figure out where they go from graduation. Was basically it, and it mostly focuses on Winona Ryder, and she's kind of making a documentary of herself and her friends and trying to figure out her life, and that's basically all it is. It's them trying to figure out what their lives are going to be, who they are, and where they're going to go from here. And I kind of like this one. And then last but not least, got into my Blu-ray collection again and watched the 1964 film. Can you guess who the main character is?
um
He swings a sword around.
Bob Hope.
1960. I watched Zatoichi's flashing sword.
Played by Bob Hope.
Yes. I think this is maybe the seventh film in the series.
Oh no, they're starting to blur together.
They started to blur together after the first three or four. But that sounds bad, but like I'm enjoying them still. Like I enjoy every time I watch one. Do I remember the plots of all of them after I watch the next one? No, but this one is he's leaving a town and someone who's mad at him shoots him in the back and he falls in the river, and then some lady fishes him out and takes him home and heals him and nurses him, and then to repay he goes and stays with her and her father and helps around the house and whatever. And her father ends up being a boss who's like trying to maintain control of a river crossing, and the another boss wants control of it so he can make more money off of it. So he's a more evil boss.
Mm-hmm.
And so then Zatoichi, helps out, and there's some more sword swinging action and another fun movie.
Nice.
And that's what I've been watching. What do you got coming up next?
I have the decided it's time to catch up on the Mission Impossible series. I've
Oh,
seen
very nice.
1, 3, and 5. The only one I saw in theaters was 5. Was because my friend wanted to go see it, and I still had a good time because for the most part that one stood alone pretty well.
Yes.
So I thought,
Number
hey,
one,
I should watch, and I saw number 1 on TV, and I remember renting number 3 on DVD.
I have the box set of all six because I've seen all of them several times. Except the one I've seen the least is number two because, as fun as it is so stupid. It's such a stupid John Woo movie. But no, yeah, that'd be fun to talk about because I really enjoy that series.
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't compare to the intellectual heights of Face Off.
No, I love Face Off.
I mean, very few movies do compare to Face Off. Or
So I think for me, I just subscribed to Peacock this week. So I think that I'm going to, after we're done recording tonight, pop on the Peacock and watch Cocaine Bear.
I saw that in theaters. It is worth your time.
I know I've been anxious to see this. I've heard several people, yourself included, say that it's exactly the movie I'm hoping it is. So I'm going to check that out tonight.
It's the best movie about a bear on cocaine I've ever seen.
It's the Citizen Kane of Cocaine Bear movies.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Until then, though, you can catch us online on Twitter at AwesomeKM.
And at Noah_Saturn, that is spelled Satern.
And we're on Instagram at We Don't Know to Watch. And you can email us, we don't know what to watch at gmail.com. Like, subscribe, comment below. Tell us what you've been watching. And until next time, keep watching.
Keep watching movies and may the Schwartz be with you.